Everybody, and welcome to an exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I always say they're exciting. I'm always excited to be here in the Zoom space. And today I am talking with comics creator, legend, a person that's been around for a little while in the comics industry, and that is Mick Gray. May I call you Mick? Is that okay?
Yes, you can, Jason. Nice to meet you, and it's great to be here today. I always love talking about this stuff because it's hard to even believe sometimes that I've been doing this over 30 years, and
Oh, yeah.
you go, my God, where'd that time go? But
And I love the space you're in. Glad to share the video as well as the audio. That's completely
yeah,
up to
this is
you,
the
but
studio. You're looking at the studio,
love
but
it.
this is only the studio from the last 3 years. So not many comics have been created in this room. This table to my side is a table that's had lots of comic book stuff done on it. Um,
Hmm.
and but I lived in San Jose, California for 60 of my years, and most all my comic book stuff was done in San Jose. And now I'm down near Monterey. Now we moved 3 years ago, and my my little studio here is just wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good space. So you've got the table. Are there fixtures? Are there things that just have to be in the studio that just get you flowing creatively?
Music
Yeah.
is the only thing I need. I'm a music fanatic, a insane music fanatic. If I wasn't working in comics, I would have to be working somehow in music. My hobby is a thing called Mick Radio, and every Friday night I broadcast 4 hours live on Zoom here. Um, a different concept. Every Friday night's a different concept in music, and we have an amazing gang that's growing every time. Through the pandemic, I was doing 3 nights a week of KMIC Radio,
I don't blame
and
you. I don't blame you.
it was a lot of fun, but it really was a lot of work because I was creating concepts. Like one night, our last one we did was covers versus originals. So 4 hours of songs that you heard the original version and you heard a cool cover of it too. And so
Mhm.
I have to put them together too, so it takes time to do that. But and then I have guests. I've over the years I've met many musicians, so I have guests on and I interview them, and it's a blast. It's a blast.
Very
So
cool.
that's my
Very
hobby.
cool.
And I'm kind of moving out of comics because I'm pretty much semi-retired now, but I'm still doing comics. Um,
Yeah.
the uh, the big one that just finished, I'll just throw it out there, is the most. I think one of the questions was what's one of the most important comics or something like that you worked on, but
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
one is the most exciting one I think in my 30 years was it's Pete Townsend's Lifehouse graphic novel, 150 pages, square bound. It'll be in the Who box set, deluxe, super deluxe box set that comes out later this year. And what it is a 50-year dream of Pete Townsend, who is the originator, the main member of the Who. He wanted to do this as a rock opera right after Tommy, and they thought he was crazy. That he thought everybody thought the story was crazy, so he almost had a nervous breakdown because he wanted to do it so bad, and it just got put on hold. And they just said, just put out the music. And
Uh,
so if you know anything about the Who, one of the greatest rock um, albums ever is Who's Next. So that's the soundtrack to Lifehouse. Uh,
uh,
and so that got put out, sort of. It's not the complete all the music that should be in Lifehouse, but in the new box set that'll come out, it'll have our 150-page graphic novel
that's
done
awesome.
with. I worked with two artists, two different pencilers on it. Um, oh, why am I blanking on their names? James Harvey was the original guy that kind of sat down with Pete Townsend and put together multiple scripts to make it the perfect story that Pete wanted to hear. And then James left, and they brought on Max Prentice, who finished the art with me. And I'm, like I say, I'm an inker. That's all I do. And so I inked it all. And hold on for a second. I'll just show you. I'll give you
Oh my
I'll give
goodness. Thank
I'll
you
give
so
you
much.
a little preview. Not many people have seen this stuff at all. So get ready. Now, this is my pencils on a double page spread. And this is the main character in the book is a girl by the name of Mary, and Pete writes a great song about Mary that should be included in it, and that's her sleeping on a pile of costumes. She's in a costume closet there,
I
and
love it.
it's very, very European in style. I had never worked in that style before, and it was very demanding and highly detailed. We did it tiny. It wasn't done 2 to 1 as most comics. If people know about comics, the way they're made, we do them twice up. So you're
Hmm.
working 2 times the size that you see in the book. This one was inked entirely 1 to 1, and it was crazy detail. Crazy detail.
Can
Then
see that.
I'll show you one more page. Here's colors on it, and this looks wonderful. If you know the song "I'm Going Mobile" by The Who, well, that's
Uh,
what they're going mobile in, and is that big old RV right there. They're driving down the road in it,
love it.
and
Love the marriage of music and
I
comics.
I tell you, man, it's the most exciting thing I've ever worked on. I'm so jazzed to possibly, if it all works out, I'll get to meet Pete Townsend at one point.
Nice.
That's my big dream right now.
Yeah.
but it's a pretty exciting thing. They just saw a printed, not physically, but my publisher sent me a print scan of the printed sample that he got, and it just looks so cool. I should be maybe getting them my copies in the mail in June, and then we'll start hearing a lot about it in the media. I think they're going to do a big panel or something in San Diego. I won't be there, but I think they're going to promote it down there somehow, and hopefully it should be out in multiple ways too. It won't just be in the Who deluxe box set. It'll also be Mondo. Have you ever heard of the company Mondo? Mondo
Sure.
makes
Yeah.
real specialty vinyl products. So they might put it out with maybe some demos on CD or in vinyl in the back of the book, maybe, because the book is 12 by 12. It's the format is square to be the same size as a piece of vinyl too. So that's I'm just that project was started 4 years ago, and I dropped everything. Probably the main reason why I haven't really heard nor worked for DC Comics is because of that. Because I took it and I went, I'm not letting anything get in the way of this. I'm going to work on this until it's done. Well, everything happened in the last 4 years too. They took
Hmm.
it from, it was originally intended to be put out on heavy metal. That fell through. Then there was problems and it got put on hold for a year almost. So I just finished the inks maybe 2 months ago, something like that.
And I
So
love how you
that's
had it as your background. It was like you were immersed in that world.
it. Let me tell you, Jason, I mean, I've been immersed in that thing for 4 years. As much as I love it, I couldn't stop thinking about it because people would call me, "Hey, could you ink this book?" And I'd be like, I don't want to take anything on that's going to get in the way of me finishing this. This is my dream project that I'm doing right now, and I want to
Hmm.
finish it and do it right. So it all worked out. It all worked out. I took on a few little projects in the middle there, but
And may I share it on the YouTube and the interwebs and all the things,
yeah,
those
yeah.
glimpses? Fantastic. Thank
I
you.
mean, don't I don't know how much you should take those images and use them anywhere else, but
Oh no, no,
within our
no.
interview, that's just fine, I think.
Yeah, no, just
Like
in
I
the
say,
interview.
it hasn't been seen that much, so I don't know. I don't think I'll get in trouble for showing it to you here, but yeah, if the images start showing up in a lot of places, I don't know. I don't care. It's done. I'm promoting the damn book for the people. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. And it looks amazing. It looks
Oh, thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
The I can't remember the colorist's name because he was added onto the book at the end, but he really nailed the. I wanted it to be. I was hoping it would look very pastel and very European, and it did. I had dreams before this project started. Oh, I would like to. Wouldn't it be neat after 30 years to work on something European and something independent. I've never worked on either really. All my projects really prior, I mean, a little bit of indie stuff before I got at DC, but mostly it was 30 years of DC Comics.
Yeah.
And then that dream came true. I got this great European looking Lifehouse project, and then I worked with a fellow by the name of Michael Finn on this fantastic dream project of his called Liberty Brigade that had
Mhm.
all sorts. It was all kind of lost superheroes, from the 30s, that were never used, very much. You didn't see them very much. So they were public domain superheroes. And so he had everybody on that thing. I was working with my old pal Barry Kitson a lot on that. I got to ink Ramona Fradon on that, one of the great inker ladies of comic book history, and all sorts of little things there. So that was fantastic. So I've pretty much, Jason, I've worked on my dreams for 30 years. It's been
Awesome.
been always that way. So.
And may it continue. I mean, I hope
Oh,
to, it
I
just
wanted
keeps
to,
rolling.
I want to continue doing it. I love inking, but like I say, I don't want to work under deadline anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just sick of it. It just almost killed me. I had, my hand,
Mm.
I've always had, possibly, I don't know if it was carpal tunnel or not, because all you do with a brush is you go like this. That's pretty
Right.
much what you're doing. Is that, and so that if you know anything about carpal tunnel, with the way you get it is by doing minimal movement. And so I have an ache in my hand, and it generally doesn't bother me when I'm working, but
Mm.
but I can feel it all the time. And I've had a good run. I'll kick back
Yeah,
now.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Um, doing the passion things. No deadlines. No deadlines.
So what I want, man.
Yeah. Now you started at DC around the time that probably around the time that I started reading comics, and that was Batmania, like the whole late '80s, early '90s, and that
Yeah, it
whole
was a
kind of
crazy
thing.
time. I mean, I came out of a little San Jose company called Slave Labor Graphics, and he sold a book to DC Comics called The Griffin, and The Griffin got published by DC in a square bound, one of the early square bound graphic novel books too, maybe around 90 or something like that. And when that happened, they hired a guy by the name of Mark McKenna on to re-ink the book, because it was originally done in the indie slave labor version. And so he called me from New Jersey and said, "Hey, you want to co-ink this book? You want to help me?" And I was like, "How would I do that? You're in New Jersey, I'm in California." He goes, "Oh, I just stick pages in a FedEx box every day and send them to you, and you ink them and send them back to the office in New York." And I went, "That's the way it's done?" He goes, "Yeah, that's the way all comics are done. They're done around the world this way. We just stick pages in a box and send them to wherever they are." And so for 30 years, that's the way I did comics. I worked with Lee Bermejo in Italy on the Joker book. I worked with J.H. Williams for 8 years on all sorts of Bat books, like you say. That's how was my first books in DC Comics was with him, jumping around a little bit before we got on the Batman book, but then we worked on, what was it, Batman 550, which was, you mentioned Kelly Jones earlier. That was kind of backing him up on that one book, and we did like one issue of that, and then we started getting more Bat books like the Legends of the Dark Knight and things like that. And J.H. Williams um, was perfect for Batman. I mean, he has that dark, shadowy feel to him, and he really knew how to do that really good. And it was a fantastic thing. So that was really the start of my career, was when I met J.H. Williams at a convention, sat next to him. He noticed that I was working on something that he liked, and I noticed something he was working on, and he didn't like his inker. And so we went, "Oh, why don't we try out, see if we work good together?" And 8 years, that was a really good run. Learned so much from that guy. I think he's one of the top 5 guys in the business. There's nobody that's quite like J.H. Williams. I always tell the stories of, we did the book Promethea with Alan
Oh
Moore,
yeah. Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I remember once, that was 30 issues. That was a big run. And I remember once working on it, and he calls me one time and he goes, I don't think I'm going to need you on this issue, because I'm going to do kind of a Van Gogh tribute." And I kind of just went, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool." And Sure enough, freaking perfect. He just did a homage to Van Gogh. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the kind of artist J.H. Williams is. He gets it in his mind, boom, he can do it. So yeah, working on Batman at DC Comics was on and off through JH. Then I get with Barry Kitson and we do a bunch of Legion of Superheroes stuff together. We do 25 issues, I think, of Legion of Superheroes together. Barry Kitson, like I say, to this day, I still work with him on and off because the thing about me and pencilers is I work with pencilers that don't need inkers. They're so good, they can do whatever they want to do. And then I get to ink them. And if I can make one of these guys happy, that's the most amazing thing in the world because they know how to ink. They don't need to do it. I'm just really there because there's maybe time constraints or whatever. So when I got with Barry, same kind of thing. He's an amazing artist, amazing inker. But he trusts me. So to this day, we just did some of that Liberty Brigade stuff together, and he's fantastic. But then I think he went over to Marvel for a while, and there was some problems over there, and I ran back to DC
Hmm.
and I worked with my buddy Ryan Sook for a while, who probably one of my favorite artists in the business, Ryan Sook. He's another guy doesn't need an inker, but so he went off and did his thing, and I jumped around a lot. I've must have inked. I'll just read off some artists that I've worked with: J.H.
Yeah.
Williams, Barry Kitson, Ryan Sook, Patrick Gleason, Emma Lupacino, Scott McDaniels, Marco Rudy, Frank Sirocco, Norman Felkley, Lieber Mayo. It's crazy how many
A great
great
list.
artists. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with Mark Buckingham. I've worked with. There's so many great ones, but at one point, and a fella that was my editor, that was me and JH's editor, Peter Tomasi, wasn't even writing at the time. He was just the editor, and he knew me. And he calls me one day. He goes, "Hey, I'm writing now, and I'm working with this new guy, Patrick Gleason. Um, we're gonna do Batman and Robin. Do you want to come on with us?" And
A great run too.
I was like, "Oh God, you got to be kidding me! I'm there if you want me." Well, that turns out to be the longest run I've ever worked on with anybody. Me and Pat worked at least, I think it was over 8 years, but it was about 50 issues. It was Batman and Robin, Robin, son of Batman, Superman, and then he went digital at that point and said, "Don't need you anymore, Mick. Take it easy." And so so that was the end of my. That's the thing about being an inker. You got to be ready for those. I always was looking for the long term partnerships, and I did good. I got a lot of long term partnerships, but working on Batman and Robin was really was probably the most important thing to me at the time because I am a huge Batman fan. I love
And
Batman. Batman is
same.
like so I have a Batmobile collection. I have like 30 different models of Batmobiles, and I mean
Hmm.
I, I
Hmm.
I just love that stuff so much. And the book Batman and Robin was so special too because it was about a father who didn't know how to be a father and a son that didn't know how to be a son. And getting them together and the emotion that was behind it, it was unbelievable. It was the Peter Tomasi's writing was just phenomenal. It should have won more awards than it did.
Yeah,
But
very
yeah,
enjoyable series. I enjoyed that one a lot, and visually stunning.
yeah,
Visually stunning.
great
Yeah.
team. John Cleese colored most of that stuff and turned out fantastic. And it was just a great run. It was a great run.
And Promethea, visually stunning, and I mean,
Promethea was another thing
otherworldly.
altogether. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
another that was on another level, Jason. I mean, Promethea, the thing I always say about how that got started was Alex Ross and Alan Moore were together trying to put together America's Best Comics, which that came out on. Who are we going to have? What artist teams are we going to get here? And well, I always say people think that Alan is kind of mystical, and I think he really is because the people he picked just were perfect for each one of the books. I sat on a panel once with everybody from America's Best on the panel, and each one of them said the same thing. Where how did he know that I like Kevin Nolan? How did he know I wanted to draw cows out in the middle of Kansas? And sure enough, this was part of his storyline. And each
Mhm.
one of the artists said that. And when it came to J.H. Williams on Promethea, J.H. Williams had that kind of ethereal feel to it. He wanted to go in that direction, and sure enough, he got the perfect guy for that too. The majority of Promethea, if you've ever looked at the book, is double page spreads. There's very little of the 30 issues that are single pages. So it was expansive. We always said it's like looking at letterbox film almost,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it was the team was so connected. J.H. Williams is more than a penciler. He's everything, but he's a director. And I would get pages from him, and I'd get the physical page penciled and I was ready to ink it. But on the top or around the sides, he'd have notes written around the sides of what he wanted to see. And if he wanted something special, he would send me all sorts of reference. And it was, I learned so much. I can't say it enough from J.H. Williams. He's a powerhouse. I can almost say he's a genius illustrator. I mean, genius is
Mhm.
thrown around a lot, but yeah, he is.
And to work with him, to pair with him, I mean, I recognize your humility, but you bring a lot to that table. That table back there, actually.
It's
I mean, yeah.
it I try, but I always say that I'm not an inker with a style. I don't want to be an inker with a style. I want to be a chameleon. I want to
Mhm.
take the penciler's style and capture it. That's what I always
Mhm.
say because I love getting that phone call saying, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I wanted to see." Now, if you think of
Um,
somebody like Terry Austin, the legend inker that inked through the '70s, he had a look. When you looked at the book, you went, "Oh, Terry Austin inked this book,"
mhm. Mhm.
And I kind of hope that you can't tell that it's me on books because I want you to see J.H. Williams, I want you to see Lee Bermejo, I want you to see Barry Kitson, I want you to see Patrick Gleason. And it's just the way I've always been.
Lifting what's on the page, kind of
Yeah, yeah.
musically, like celebrating that voice, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so true. But it's fun. I like that. I like to be an interpreter. I like to be the person that takes that and goes, okay, this is. I'm pretty sure this is what he wants here. I'm always thinking about that penciler, not thinking
Mhm.
about what I want it to look like. What? Oh, maybe I can make this better because I don't consider myself an artist. I can't pencil a page. I'm not a penciler. I mean, I do. I've done a book called Albie Mouse's Episodarian, which is a children's book, ABC book.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
my character, Albie Mouse, is very simple, just a little cartoon. That's about as much as I can pencil. When I look at the guys that I've worked with, I go, I can't even come close to what they've done. So for me, it's a total honor to be able to, wow, at least I know this skill that I can help them finish the book, and that's the coolest thing in the world.
And it sounds like you've gotten to work on characters that you love with people that you've appreciated working with.
Every one of them. 30 years of almost every character at DC. I mean, I've done Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, name a couple and I'll tell you if I'm pretty sure I've probably at least touched them at one time. Flash.
Oh yeah.
The biggest project I ever worked on as far as money goes. Comics really don't make that much money unless you're in
Mhm.
the number one book in the country or whatever. That's when you might make some good royalties. And I worked on a book with Lee Bermejo once called The Joker. And the Joker
Mhm.
graphic novel came out right after the Dark Knight
Mhm.
movie. And Hugh, what's his, excuse me, what is his name? What was the guy that played Joker's name again? I'm
Heath
forgetting.
Ledger.
Yeah, Heath Ledger kills
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
It's the saddest thing in the world because our book had the Joker character sitting in a room with drugs all over the floor and
Mhm.
whatever it and people flocked to the book because number one, they kind of thought it was a adaptation of the film, but our book was done before the film. And we're pretty sure, I've never heard this for sure, but we're pretty sure that the director, Christopher Nolan, saw Lee Bermejo's Joker designs and used it for Heath Ledger. That's never been confirmed, but I've always wanted maybe Nolan to do a little forward in a new version of that book or whatever. But anyways,
Yeah.
because of these sad situations and because it's great art, that book sold. I've never heard actual numbers, but I'm going to guess 400,000 copies in hardbound, maybe
Oh,
500,000 in full, with soft cover. It's still selling today. I still get royalties off of it today. So I've never worked on anything. Everything else, you get the DC royalty sheet and it lists everything, and everything's like, oh, 5 cents on this book. Oh, 5 cents on this book. I have, like, if you look at my DC royalty sheet, it's got maybe 300 books in print. That's a good thing about DC too. They keep a lot of books in print.
hmm.
You run down this, and then all of a sudden it's the Joker, and it's like the largest percentage of your check you're getting is from that every time since 2000. When did it come out? 2009 or whatever. So it's
Hmm.
always, oh, it continually is the best selling book that I've ever worked on. So cheers to Lee Bermejo and everybody on that book, because it was something special, man.
That was Brian Azzarello, is that
Brian
right?
Azzarello. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, Brian. But yeah,
Um,
that was crazy.
remember, of course, I've been a comics fan for since I could read, basically. And I remember when, first of all, when Heath Ledger got cast, and I was like, really? And
Yeah,
then I saw the teaser, and I was like, oh, wow, because of the way he took that on.
so
And
scary
then,
looking.
oh, yeah. And then when he passed away, just almost again, like, really? Like, what just happened?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I the book also is very graphic. It's very
Hmm.
graphic. I mean, I was almost when I was working on it. My daughter was about 8 or 10 maybe. And I'd be embarrassed. She'd walk in the room and there'd be something going on the page, and hey, don't come in here right now. You don't want to see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, that was one of those love hate books for me, because it was always a little bit embarrassing. I never wanted to work on anything. I don't like violence that much. That's a very violent, graphic, sexually graphic, everything about
Yeah.
it. It's an adult book. Probably one of the most adult books. It's up there with Killing Joke and the other stuff that DC's done. But I mean, um, I and then the book's the most successful thing I've ever worked on. It's kind of it's tough to
Yeah.
even to mentally go, wow, I love getting this money on this book that I wasn't, had nothing to do with the people working on it. I loved all the people, but just that some of that subject matter just wasn't in my wheelhouse. I don't like that, but
Yeah. Yeah. I
nothing I
often
can
read
do
right
about it.
before.
Specifically at that time of my life, I had no choice about, oh, I don't think I'm going to take that. I'm going to kick back. No, I wasn't financially well enough off. I had to take the work. So it's kind of weird.
It's one of those I very often read right before bed. That's not a book that I read right before
No,
bed.
no, no,
I have to be in a very special
not for
frame
the
of
kids.
mind.
And people also say about Promethea. They'll come up to me and go, "Oh, well, I'm a Alan Moore fan, but I've never grasped that." And I always that one on a way different level. I just say, well, if you're an Alan Moore fan, you have to read this because this is his favorite subject matter. You have to buy it and put it on your shelf, and when you're ready to read
Mhm.
it, it'll be there, because it's very spiritual and it's graphic too in places, but
Mhm.
it's really, deeply into spirituality, which not many comic books written in that realm at all. So
You just go
pretty,
along
yeah,
for the ride.
I've worked on some intense stuff, man. I tell you, man.
As we're coming down to our last couple of minutes, As I mentioned, I'm on a unfortunately time Zoom, and I
Yeah,
don't want the Iron Curtain to drop.
right.
Um, Celebrating your time of not worrying about deadlines. I always like to ask about like what's next, what's coming up, conventions, things like that. What's on the playlist? What's
I
happening
you
on
know,
the
I'm
playlist?
like I say, um I'm pretty much semi-retired, so I don't have anything that I'm going to be working on now. I kind of, like I say, I
Yeah.
kind of play around with my Kamic radio now, which I'm into, but um, it's,
What
I if it comes along, if
yeah.
somebody asks me to do a project that I'm have time to do and they're going to give me time, I'm there probably.
But what is really on the playlist? What's the music? What's the jam of the moment? Yeah.
Well, I was you're actually talking about music.
I'm talking about it on both levels.
Well, the next K-Mix show is
Yeah.
part two of the covers versus originals because I had 6 hours of it queued up, and then people start requesting on the show. They come up, hey, here's another one, and so we now have 8 hours more. So it's actually going to be a three-part show. So I think next Friday on K-Mix Radio will be part two, and and then on the another one that's going to be fun is on June 8th. This is going to be a little weird, but if you've ever heard of an artist by the name of Graham Parsons, Graham Parsons was kind of the um, cosmic outlaw country guy. He was the first guy really prior to Willie Nelson and all these guys to really do kind of rock and roll, rock and country, country rock kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And he's the guy that found Emmylou Harris too, if you've ever heard of her. But anyways, he lived and died a very strange life, and he died in a motel room in Joshua Tree down in California. And I'm going to go down on June 8th and stay in that motel room and broadcast Kamic Radio live from that hotel room and play Graham Parsons music and talk about his life a little bit. So that's going to be a little weird. I've never done anything like that, but I've always wanted to go to this place. So
A journey into musical history.
history,
Nice.
yeah. They say the places could be haunted, and I'm not sure. I don't know if I. I'm going to
Yeah.
talk very positively about Graham so that we don't run into any weird situations. But yeah, that's on June 8th, and if you want to check out Kamic Radio, you just friend me on Facebook. Or if you're on Facebook, you can just go to the Kamic Radio group, and I'll sign you up there. And yeah,
Cool, cool. And we'll make sure to link it when I share this,
heck yeah.
so that folks can check it out. And thanks for taking some time to talk with me. And just to say, you've been a part of a lot of people's reading lives. And thanks to the ongoing work, and as you mentioned, DC Comics keeps things in print. I mean, that's going to go on for a long time to come as
I
well.
hope so. DC is so good at that. Some of the other companies aren't as good at keeping things in print, and I appreciate them so much because as I grow older, when I get that even little royalty check in the mail, I'm like, wow, these guys are great. They even keep these things in that book wasn't made for years. They keep it in print so long, so I appreciate them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you and appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Jason. It's been great talking to you.
Great to talk to you as well, and looking forward to all of the musical and comics things to come.
Awesome, man. Keep your eye open for Lifehouse. Should be out on Universal uh, Music very soon.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, buddy.